of Love 101 FM.
Welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, Black History Month and the role of the church. And in the second watch, assessing the proposed increase in stipend for jury duty. For our social media question, we ask, should Black History Month be more visible in churches? We're asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I Quote.
All right, good morning. Today's I Quote says, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream." And this one is from Amos 5, verse 24.
Yeah, good morning, Joka.
Good morning.
How are you managing with the weather, my brother?
I love it, actually.
Yeah?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah? Why?
I love the temperatures.
Why?
It's beautiful. Because when it's hot, it's hot. When Jamaica hot, we all know it's extremely hot. So just soak it up from now.
You prefer it be chilly like this?
Definitely.
Yes. All right. In the words of the producer, faith is not meant to exist in silence. Scripture reminds us that justice, truth, and dignity must be lived out, not just spoken about. And that's in reference to Amos 5, verse 24. The first watch after this break.
On the next mailbox, you'll be staying on track with the topic Steaming Ahead Part 2. Imagine starting your high school journey with an avalanche of financial challenges. These financial problems cause you not to have a roof over your head at times, along with a poor school attendance record and low academic results for almost 3 years. You are invited to continue the conversation with our special guest, Mr. Eric Cunningham, second-year physics student at the Michael University College, as he shares more about his divine transformation, graduating with 16 subjects and recognized with an iconic photograph atop the St. Jago High School sixth form block. That's Wednesday, February 4 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, the mailbox, Monday.
Tune in this Testimony Tuesday inside Alive 1 to 5 to tap into the transformative power of God's Word. At 1:45, your brain meets its match with Mentasize Rollover Edition. Stick around at 2 o'clock for Prayer Blast, a powerful prayer experience with our Tuesday prayer partner, Minister Dwayne Perry. At 2:15, we share inspiring testimonies of faith that you can't afford to miss. At 3 o'clock, join us for Behind the Pulpit, as we have part 2 of the life transforming story of Apostle Dr. Rowan Carnegie. At 4:30, stick and stay for more fun coming your way as Auntie Vashti wraps things up with the Small People Show. All this and more will come alive 1 to 5 with me, Sarah Ann, the Chirpy One, only on the family station, Love 101. Come on now, boom, like you're alive. Everybody, boom, like you're alive. Come on now, boom.
Welcome welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, as we observe Black History Month, many Jamaicans are reflecting on the role institutions have played in shaping identity, resilience, and progress. Historically, the church has been a central space for education, resistance, community support, and spiritual grounding for Black people. Today, questions are being asked about whether the church is still engaged in history, culture, and social issues in meaningful ways, especially for younger generations. And so to discuss this, we are joined by the Reverend Dr. Stephen Jennings, pastor of the Mona Baptist Circuit of Churches, and the Reverend Dr. Dave Goss, head of the Institute of Cultural Studies at the University of the West Indies. Good morning to you both, gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning, Stephen. Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this chilly morning. Really appreciate it. I'll begin with you, Dr. Goss. What is your understanding of why and how Black History Month became instituted?
Yes, thank you for the invitation.
Yes.
Well, it's in the context of the issues in the United States regarding the contribution of Blacks generally to development, Black development.
Mhm.
I mean, this occurred, Carter G. Woodson, early 20th century, making the case that the country, United States, they're not remembering the contribution of Blacks to the development of North American civilization. And that's on the one hand.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, now then, there's also a space and an institution kind of needed to also remind Blacks as well of our contribution, and also to affirm Blackness, Black life and Black culture. Because in that time you had segregation,
Mhm.
which was ripe. So you could imagine the kind of internal issues that many Blacks had to face, and still facing today, of course. But it was a way of remembering our history, celebrating our history, and passing on our history to succeeding generations.
Yes, and you mentioned, Dr. Goss, that it was in the United States, Carter
Yes.
Wilson. What's the relevance really to Jamaica, therefore?
Well, well, if you want to go back to what they call it kind of Pan-African, Pan-Africanism, we the Caribbean have always been a part of the Black global struggle, and we have had several Pan-Africanists. I mean, and probably Marcus Garvey is probably the epitome of them all, and who also was very influential in the United States as well. I probably would argue even more here than here. If you hear persons who are Garveyites, literal Garveyites talk about Garvey, you want every same person that we know, right? So his relevance there to have always been involved in the struggle, in the Black struggle for survival, for identity, So the whole Pan-African world was one in which we're all, and this has happened right down to the 1960s, Martin Luther King, who have always been a part of the Pan-African struggle for Black empowerment.
Yes. Dr. Jennings, please feel free to add to what Dr. Goss just said if you desire. But as well, can you tell us what you believe is the role of the church in that regard?
Thank you again for the minute. The role of the church is, as you said earlier in your introduction, a space for Black people to express their God-given humanity in a time and place where that was being denied. That was not just true in the context of the United States then, but in the Caribbean long before and elsewhere, where people of African descent were enslaved in Africa, brought over here, dehumanized all the way through. and really were treated as property. And it was the Christian community that was formed out of this that gave people a sense of a place, of hope, just to survive and then to thrive. So it seems to me that the Black church, as it is called, has played that role continually and still plays that role now. When a place like Jamaica, where the majority of people are of African descent, the idea of Black history doesn't resonate quite the same way. Because we are accustomed to Blackness, we are accustomed to being in charge, especially since independence. And so for us, every day that we live, we can make Black history, and we are part of that Black history. But for people who live in places where people of African descent are the minority, and whose corporate presence are often denied in terms of their basic humanity, it is important for them to celebrate it. In fact, it started as Black History Month, as Dr. Day would tell you, started as a Black History Week, and then was expanded to a month. But every other month, people of African descent make history in the United States, in Jamaica, and around the world. So we shouldn't get hung up on the history, but this is the only time you can celebrate it, every time, all over, but with a special emphasis.
Yes.
Special focus.
Yeah. Dr. Goss, I throw the same question to you. The role of the church. What do you think?
Yes. And yes, and Steve is correct in his analysis. But I want to pick up on something though that and this is part of the dilemma that we face as a Black church. That apart from, let me go back to even say George Lyle, who had a clear idea of what you would call an Ethiopian church, a Black church. That concept of the Black church have eroded, especially since we were and I will use the word deliberately, colonized, Christianized and civilized by European and North American missionaries. So in the 20th century, George Lyle's vision of a church with a kind of a Black focus, a Black emphasis, deliberate Black emphasis now, have been eroded significantly by missionary involvement in the Caribbean generally. I mean, I'm reading the papers of George Wilson, the missionary to Ireland, and I mean, he hits Bedouin and all our nationalities. He hit them hard, right? So while Steve is correct that yes, we are Black people and we live it every day, but in reality now, we have also been marginalized as well, given the impact of missionary Christianity, in the sense that it kind of derided anything African, and so the ideal was to be European in our dress, in our rituals, all of that. Since independence, we have made some strides, yes, to kind of reclaim that. But I find that the church, and I have to be careful when I say the church, because the church is not a singular. The church is very diverse, right? That we have not deliberately, what we call this thing about deconstructing, some of those missionary emphasis, in our theology. So, and you do it and build that deliberate way, because indirectly we have, because I mean the music playing away, we know into DJ, gospel DJ, the kind of thing. So we have made some strides in independence, but this idea of a Black church, is something that is kind of lost on us and this current generation of Christians, I would say.
Interesting, and I wanted to say more on that, because I think I have some questions here to drill down on in that regard. But I think we are nearing a break, so we will discuss those issues on the other side of this break. Soon come back.
Stepping confidently into a new year starts with one simple, powerful word. Yes! Say yes to new beginnings. Say yes to a secure future. Say yes to living the life you love with your family. With health and life insurance from Sagicor Life, we're here to give you the protection and peace of mind you deserve in 2026. All you have to do is say yes to what matters most. Call 888-SAGICOR to speak with an advisor today.
Clean hands are good for your health. In the wake of Hurricane Melissa, protecting your health includes a simple act: washing your hands. Use soap and safe water to remove dirt and germs after cleaning, before eating, and after using the toilet. If clean water is limited, use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. Remember, clean hands stop the spread of disease and help to keep families safe. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And this is the first watch. We're looking on Black History Month and the role of the church. And in so doing, we have online the Reverend Dr. Dave Goss, head of the Institute of Cultural Studies at the University of the West Indies, and the Reverend Dr. Stephen Jennings, pastor of the Mona Circuit of Baptist Churches. Before the break, we were looking at the how and the why that Black history became instituted. And now we have been exploring the whole matter of that role of the church, whether real or imagined. Reverend Dr. Jennings, before the break, Dr. Goss was talking about the input and impact of missionaries in Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. What's your response? And I think I'll throw it over as well to Dr. Goss after. What's your response to those who have the view that Christianity is a white man's religion and the Bible is a white man's book? Songs like Lord wash me and I shall be whiter than snow. The scripture, though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as wool. And all of those things, white as wool. Your view on that, Dr. Jennings?
The truth is that there would be those who say that would have a case to make, because as Dr. Goss is pointing out, there has been a use of the Bible to promote black racism and to exalt prejudice on the part of some. And it's not just an individual prejudice, but a systematic prejudice, a dehumanizing of African culture and anything that resembles it, and that persists in some quarters. But it is also not fully true, because Christianity belongs to all humanity, and people of African descent have been Christians for a long time. In fact, it should be noted that the gospel came to Africa before it came to Europe. You are man of the Bible, Reverend Toussaint and Reverend Goss, so you know that Acts chapter 8 comes before Acts chapter 10. Acts chapter 8, the story of the Ethiopian eunuch, so called. It should be an African officer, more properly translated. And is there as a man who was saved by Jesus. Before Cornelius in Acts chapter 10, who's a Roman centurion. So, and Philippi in Acts chapter 16. So what we're talking about is that the African Christianity and the African church existed long before it existed in Europe in a full way. And I think we have to recognize those kinds of things and recognize that Christianity, there's a distinct Christianity that was African, that produced many scholars, for instance, many theologians that the church is still indebted to, that was established and flourished. And long before Europeans came and brought their version of it, people were African and Christian and didn't have to make a choice between one or the other. So it is true to say that people have used it for promoting their own ends, including some people of Euro-Western descent who use it against people of African descent. But it is not true to say that the Bible and Christianity only belong to them. It belongs to the world. And Africans had a significant place both in the world of the Bible and in promoting Christian values for centuries, and they still do.
Yeah. Your take on that, Dr. Goss?
Yeah, man, Steve is absolutely correct. We can even go further to the Old Testament. You talk about the Garden of Eden. Located somewhere there near Cush. We talk about the Cushites. Moses' wife Zipporah. Ebed-Melech, the prophet who saved Jeremiah. The entire Bible, right, is set in a kind of Afro-Asiatic world. As a matter of fact, I was reflecting on a story recently. That story that I think we all know we use in evangelistic services, where the man who was late for 38 years, right? And Jesus tells Jesus that where the water is troubled. Now, if you read the story carefully, the background to that story, the very literature itself, where you talk about the angel who will disturb the water, right, for healing. That the whole background is African, So the African presence in the Bible is numerous and plentiful, and ironically, I don't think the Christian church today, appreciate the fact that we were included from the beginning as black people in the Bible, right? Now, where Steve is correct as well. Now, we were brought. Christians were introduced to us now by European missionaries who themselves came out of a context, right? But if you study the history of the Christian church, there's even the history of the Christian church in the Congo, a kind of Christianity with Creed and Zinga that was both Catholic and African. You talk about the Ethiopian church. So Christianity in the Christian presence in Africa is extremely old, if I could use that term, and long-standing, right? And people have to understand that. To understand the importance of black people in the Bible and being a part of that gospel story. So we're not excluded. If you look at the list of nations at Pentecost, the African nations are there, right?
Yes.
Right through the entire Bible, they are there.
But based on what you both said, Reverend Jennings, what are we to do then with those songs? Lord, wash me and I shall be whiter than snow. Should we stop singing them?
Well, snow is not right to begin with.
So we should stop singing it. It is incorrect.
Yeah, we need to find another term for white, maybe clean, which is the author's intent. It's just that cleanness is associated with whiteness and blackness is associated with dirt. And I think that's the association we need to break. But the fact that people need to become clean morally, we still need that. So we need to have other words and updating and so on. But I think in a place where whiteness is seen as pure and blackness is seen as impure, we really do have to do work on changing that and that link and helping people to understand that the skin that God gave them is a skin that they should love and appreciate the features, that we denying our humanity. Because again, that's part of the way in which the prejudicial missionary theology has affected us. It has made us think that somehow we should hate ourselves and who we are. So we have to change our skin color, we have to change our features, we have to, do all kinds of gymnastics.
Yeah, and the images that we see, the white, blue-eyed Jesus, Satan is always black.
Always.
It's interesting. Gentlemen, separate and apart from the church's role, as you have expressed so ably, what are your major commendations and or concerns with how Black History Month has been observed over the years? Beginning with you, Dr. Goss.
I'm disappointed, and probably understand the reason. Because I mean, in my own church, in my own denomination, I mean, when I was Christian education director of the national church, I mean, you plan entire program on Black history, you know, and people just don't resonate in that sense, you know. So in that sense, but we understand why, because we have not engaged our churches since the 1970s. And in the 1970s, we had the whole issue of like Noel Dexter, you know, rewriting songs and that kind of thing, the right hand of God. I think we need more of those kind of songs and liturgies for people to understand that we have to start working through like our own Caribbean theology, you know, seeing God in our context, and even using some of the songs that are written by some other person who are not necessarily gospel singers, you know, bring them into our own hymnals, because they represent our culture and our experiences. Until we do that, I don't think our church today will fully understand the importance of celebrating significantly Black history, not just in February now, but through the entire year, but highlighting February as a serious time when we really engage, you know, the church community and you know, regarding who we are as Black people. But that's where I started on that issue, that we need to go back to rewriting, reconstructing our liturgies and our songs and our, you know, symbols and all of that. Until we do that, we're gonna struggle with helping our members to understand the significance of Black History Month.
Yes, your take on that, Reverend Jennings? Commendations or concerns?
I would say Vito, in terms of what we need to do. I think we also have to know that to celebrate Blackness is not to celebrate everything, to say that everything that Black people do is good and everything that so-called white people do is bad. All right? I think if we do that, we are doing reverse racism, and we are guilty of the same things that were inflicted on us. What we're saying is that we are human beings that are uniquely gifted, not just in terms of skin color and so, but in terms of culture, in terms of where we emerge, in terms of our context, in terms of our issues. And that affects how we view God and life and history, and that views also how we contribute to the world. And we shouldn't be ashamed of it. We should learn from our ancestors. We should develop things. We should be people given to certain values like justice and mercy and prosperity for all and so on. And I think once we can do that, then we would know, not just be talking Black history, but Black history's contribution to the welfare of the whole human race, which is what the Jamaican National Club says. And I think we really should look at that. We shouldn't allow anybody to push us to one side like we don't matter. We matter to God. That's what He made us. But we should now say, in the name of God and in the name of Jesus, His Son, by His Spirit, how can we affirm our humanity, and how can we, through this humanity redeemed by God, do what God needs us to do and be what God needs us to be, to make sure that everybody else flourishes in earth, including our own kind of people.
So in terms of our churches, for the rest of this month, anything specific you'd recommend, Dr. Jennings and then Dr. Goss, to close off? Specific mention.
Like what we do now. Like what we do in that discussion. We need to have discussions like this, because I think we need to have consciousness ratings. I want to commend you and your team for that. And I think we need to have those kinds of discussions throughout the year. In a place like Jamaica, you can have it February, you can have it in August, in time of Emancipation, you can have it Heroes Day and so on. So we have opportunities to do that, and then build programs around it.
Got to leave it there. Sorry, Dr. Goss. Reverend Jennings had the final word. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Have a safe, productive day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Listeners, the Morning Watch, and viewers, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
Start your journey with a JN Small Business Loan with small business loans as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million. The time by JN Small Business Loan is
7:30.
Jamaica, the national budget is here and it affects you, your family, your future, your community. It's all connected. Now is the time to get informed and get involved. What's new? What's changing? And how will it impact your daily life? Tune in on Tuesday, March 10 as the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Finance and the Public Service, presents the 2026-27 Central Government Budget. The national budget is everybody's business. Visit mof.gov.gm for more details.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Tuesday, February 3, on The Rock, we're getting real with a conversation titled, Let's Cry. In a world that tells us to toughen up, stay strong, and move on quickly, where do our tears belong? And what happens when we stop pretending we're okay? Join our guests, Pastor Luke Smith and Azam Aziz, as they explore what the Bible truly says about tears. From prophets to kings to ordinary people, even Jesus, we see that crying isn't weakness. It can actually be an expression of deep faith. So let's talk, let's listen, and maybe let's cry together. All this and more on The Rock, Tuesday, February 3 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at some news headlines to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. We see here that the National Security Minister commends JCF for a historic reduction in murders last month. Also, wanted man is nabbed in St. Mary, and the government says over 115 million have been disbursed to Jamaicans whose homes were damaged or destroyed by Hurricane Melissa. The Dominican Republic Police say bodies of 4 decapitated women found near border with Haiti. Wow. And West Indies face Afghanistan in lone T20 World Cup warm-up on Wednesday. Those are some of the major news headlines. Coming up next, we'll share some of the feedback from our social media question. Should Black History Month be made visible in churches? Leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
As a contractor, I never work without a plan.
As an electrician, protection is always a priority.
If you're a small business owner or an independent contractor, there's a plan that gives you protection and coverage. Sagicor Pro Shield. Get up to $1 million critical illness coverage and cover up to 80% of your medical costs for as little as $15,510 every 3 months. Get the protection you need with Sagicor Pro Shield. Call 876-936-7784. Conditions apply.
Start your day informed, alert, and ahead of the curve. Join us at 6:30 a.m. for the latest breaking news, weather updates, and everything you need to know. Clear, concise, connected. It's your morning news right here on Love 101 FM, the family station. On Mondays, the morning news is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign.
When you
On the next mailbox, we'll be staying on track with the topic Steaming Ahead Part 2. Imagine starting your high school journey with an avalanche of financial challenges. These financial problems cause you not to have a roof over your head at times, along with a poor school attendance record and low academic results for almost 3 years. You are invited to continue the conversation with our special guest, Mr. Eric Cunningham, second-year physics student at the Michael University College, as he shares more about his divine transformation, graduating with 16 subjects and recognized with an iconic photograph atop the St. Jago High School sixth form block. That's Wednesday, February 4 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, the mailbox, Monday.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Jokal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: should Black History Month be more visible in our churches, Jokal?
All right, Cherry sent in a response, plain and straight. Yes, it should. It is a part of who we are. Full stop.
All right, that's it.
That's it.
Thank you, Cherry. I agree with you. All right, we now segue into the second watch, and a recent Gleaner report states that the government is considering increasing the stipend paid to jurors. Now, for many people, serving on a jury means taking time off from work, rearranging family responsibilities, and sometimes losing income. While jury duty is a civic responsibility, questions are being asked about whether the current stipend truly reflects the sacrifice involved. Should jurors be paid more? Would higher compensation encourage greater participation? Or should jury service remain primarily about duty and not payment? Well, to answer these and other related questions, we have online Mr. Wendell Wilkins, attorney at law, and the Reverend Michael Aiken, Associate Pastor of the Fellowship Tabernacle Church. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Dr. D.
Great morning. Thanks for joining us on this chilly morning. I appreciate it. I begin with you, Wendell Wilkins. In a nutshell, what does the law of the land presently state in regards to jurors, jury duty, and their stipend?
Well, the matter of jury service is governed by law, statutes passed by Parliament, the Jury Act, and it is about to be amended. The sum for attendance and participation is a small sum, relatively speaking. It is to move up to $6,000.
From what?
It is moving up from 2 gradually up to 6. And for those who attend but they are not selected nor being a participating juror, they get the tidy sum of $2,000. Now, in today's world, I think it can be said that those sums are relatively small.
Before we go there, Wendell Wilkins, is there a penalty for not serving jury duty?
Yes.
What is it?
There's a penalty on the act of $2,000. You can be fined by the judge if you are called and you are not present.
And the selection process is done how? How are the jurors selected presently?
Well, once you're an adult and you're not part of the listed persons who are exempt, there are certain categories based upon your occupation who are exempt. Then you are able, to serve as a juror. The selection is done from the voters list. It is gone through, and once you are not exempted, then you can be found, served, and you should attend to
give jury service.
All right. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on the proposed increase, therefore? And I think it's about 200% to $6,000. Begin with you, Reverend Aiken.
Well, the proposed increase, my brother, is of course something that should have been done a long time ago. It's a long time in coming, and as the other guest just said, it's moving from 2,000, which was woefully inadequate, to $6,000. And I say woefully inadequate because I'm speaking from a rural perspective.
Yeah.
If I have to go to Port Antonio to go serve on a jury duty, it's going to cost me $1,000 each way at least if I take public transportation if I'm coming from the interior. So right away, transportation alone would have taken away that $2,000. Bear in mind, lunch and other nutritional things like that, they don't provide it. That's why the stipend is given to provide for lunch and transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And in the current economic climate, woefully inadequate. So the $6,000 is welcome, but I think it should still, at least for rural Jamaica, be a little higher. Perhaps about $10,000, but that's wishful thinking, of course.
Hold on there, Rev. You're saying that there should be two different amounts, right? For rural Jamaica and urban Jamaica, correct?
Yes, I believe so, because it's much more difficult
in
rural Jamaica to pull a subsistence farmer from way up Balcarres to spend so much money to go serve. And by the way, let's be clear, I'm not in any way disparaging service. Those of us who get called to do jury duty should do so with a sense of responsibility and honor. It's an awesome responsibility. You're determining the lives of people, and that is something, especially as a Christian, you should take seriously, because the Bible speaks to, of course, that kind of subjection to government and authority over you, to do what's right and do what's just in your country or your locale. So I'm 100% for serving on the jury, and I believe everybody should do so. But at the same time, I hope for a day when the compensation will not be so colonial.
Wendell Wilkins, your thoughts?
Yes, I think that the reality of the environment that we live in terms of prices that one has to pay, and the income sacrifice that sometimes is triggered, it really brings in the question of not so much payment for jury service, but it's really as a token to offset that great service as a citizen to your country. I would say, however, that it can't be treated as a payment, because we shouldn't be paid for this kind of good citizenship. So while we want to increase the sum over time, perhaps there's a need to look at the inflation factor and to factor it.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of inflation, and not wait on the parliamentarians and so forth to make the adjustment, but an inflation factor to be applied.
But when I'm looking on that note, is there anything based on your understanding that will ensure that is done? Perhaps on an annual basis, a review and all of that. Anything in place to deal with that?
No, nothing in place, and this is why we have to advocate that adjustment should be made. Just like how in other spheres of life.
Yes.
Adjustments have to be made over time. You know?
Yes.
And that is readily granted and negotiated. I think it should be applied in this regard too, to keep track.
All right, stick up in right there, gentlemen. We're up on a break. Want to hear more from you? We'll be right back.
Tuesday, February 3 on The Rock, we're getting real with a conversation titled Let's Cry. In a world that tells us to toughen up, stay strong, and move on quickly, where do our tears belong? And what happens when we stop pretending we're okay? Join our guests, Pastor Luke Smith and Azam Aziz, as they explore what the Bible truly says about tears. From prophets to kings to ordinary people, even Jesus, we see that crying isn't weakness. It can actually be an expression of deep faith. So let's talk, let's listen, and maybe let's cry together. All this and more on The Rock, Tuesday, February 3 at 10 a.m. here on the family station Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and this is the second watch. We're assessing the proposed increase in stipend for jury duty. In so doing, we have online the Reverend Michael Aiken, Associate Pastor of the Fellowship Tabernacle Church, and Wendell Wilkins, Attorney at Law. I think I had interrupted your thought before the break. Wendell Wilkins, please continue. Mr. Wilkins, with us still?
Yes, I'm right here.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm saying the inflation factor should be applied so that it doesn't depend upon the parliamentarian to make a decision, which is typically delayed because there has been pressures and calls over the years and it comes very late. But at the same time, we as a nation must instill in our young ones and even the older ones the importance of jury service. So we need to step up at the school level. As young as we can get that aspect of our education in our mind, that being a good citizen is part and parcel of being in Jamaica and being a Jamaican, and that jury service is expected and we should come forth. So we have to work on that as a parallel action by the state, not only the compensatory figure, but also our own education, so that we are bonded to this idea of being a juror and to explain what is involved, so people are not fearful or in the dark about.
Well, the fear is a real thing, Wendell Wilkins, eh?
Yes, it is. It is.
Especially some of the cases that are to be tried.
Right. So when you lack knowledge and you are subject to other sources of misinformation, then oftentimes you are reluctant to get involved.
It's against that background that I want to ask this of both of you, beginning with you, Wendell Wilkins. With the fear and with the realities on the ground in terms of inflation and just living in Jamaica, according to media reports, the increase is meant along with other things, to serve as an incentive for individuals to perform their civic duties. Do you think it really will work, especially if persons lose more money if they comply than if they abscond?
Well, that equation sometimes works out to be in the negative. But with the backing, as I mentioned, of being a good citizen, it's a sacrifice towards nation building and being loyal to your country and serving your country. I think that factor will serve to push to the fore, not so much a gain and a compensation and all of these matters of finance before, but your good citizenship
Civic
behavior.
duty.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Reverend Aiken, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts in that regard are this. Let's look at it as two parallel tracks. There's a citizen who must view jury service as an awesome responsibility and an honorable civic duty. Then there's the government who ought to recognize the service as honorable enough to be properly remunerated. Now, I think we ought to consider that as equally important because, you segued from a question I noticed that black history should be more evident in churches. By the way, something I agree with wholeheartedly. Both the citizen and the government really have been influenced by the fact that we were underneath the authority of other persons at some time. So many of our governance systems were not designed with our honor in mind, even though they demanded our service. We were just a bunch of slaves or indentured servants who must take or get. But that kind of view has got to change. Yes, government must demand, and by the way, as my learned friend just indicated, we must have an educational program in and outside churches that open the eyes of people to understand that this civic duty is an honorable one that you must participate in. That must be clear. But at the same time, the government should also indicate its importance by remunerating properly so that people don't consider it an offensive and debilitating thing to do because, boy, them can't leave them farm or leave them shop to go lose money. So both sides have to take responsibility in this matter, I believe.
On that note, on that note, in terms of government, it seems that over the years, the serving of jury duties was not the only issue of concern, but also the timely payment of the stipend to those who served. What are your comments on that?
Oh, that's another matter? Yes. Because it's paid after, unless Sir Wilkins corrects me, but it's paid after you do the duty.
Yes. And for some people a long while after, apparently.
Yeah. So you have to fund yourself to get there. And for rural Jamaica, some of the persons are subsistence farmers. People living well enough to care for self and family. So jury duty is an imposition on that care.
Wendell Wilkins, your take on that? The payment?
Yes. Historically, there is a delay. For some people, they complain and say it is too long. And you have to go through paperwork and all of that. So in terms of modern technology and in terms of ensuring the early payment, I think the state has an obligation to make sure that the payment is almost immediate. Because once you are recorded as a participating juror, as soon as your time is coming to exit from that system, your payment is ready. It should be days and weeks after, and you have to be coming back and checking and all of that verification process.
Because there's also additional expenditure for some people to come back and check in.
It is. And it's annoying to be checking back and checking for something that you are entitled to get because you are a participant in that good service to your country. So it should come promptly and almost immediately because you have to be present. You are known to be in the jury system, so it shouldn't take so long. So there needs to be a look at that. And of course, a companion factor that the state must deal with is the comfort of the jurors once they attend. So the facilities, while they are there, should be up to standard, and inquiries made as to ensure that they have their break facilities, bathroom facilities, lunch facilities, and all sorts.
And that they are protected.
Yes, I mean that goes without saying,
Yeah.
So all of those things will make it a seamless exercise in being a good citizen.
Yeah, it would be remiss of me if I didn't bring this to the table before we close our discussion. It is a controversial, debatable issue over the years in terms of those who have been exempted from the list. Any thoughts on that? First, Reverend Aiken, and then Wendell Wilkins.
Well, the exemptions, if my memory serves me right, are political figures, judges, lawyers like Sir Wilkins.
And us pastors. And us pastors.
No. I don't have any exemption for pastors. I don't know. So unless you're telling me something.
Wendell Wilkins will clear that up. Wendell Wilkins will clear that up. Wendell, clear that up. Wendell, clear that up quickly.
The list is so long, I can't remember, but I think they're on the list,
Yeah, man, pastors on the list. You didn't know.
Pastors on the list as exempt?
Yes, I think so.
Well, I personally don't agree with that, but but of course, I think, and the wider issue I just put on the table too, is the fact that our mindset has to change from both sides. Okay, I can understand why certain government systems don't favor the persons who serve in the system, because at the time those government systems were put in place, we were not even viewed as people worthy of anything except being servants. But now we're self-governing. Our governors ought to have a mindset change as it pertains to the worthiness of a citizen to engage in jury duty. And then, of course, too, the juror himself or herself needs a mindset change and to understand that you're doing something honorable and worthy of your time. So both sides need to just change their mindset. We're not these like colonial people and them like black servants anymore. We need to get away from that mindset and reset and rebuild our country, where citizens are honored for what they do, not just high-level politicians and others. Let me add quickly, before I'm accused of attacking the political class. But in all seriousness, we really, in rebuilding and resetting Jamaica, it has to come from a different mindset.
No, but
I believe
but Rev,
system is one.
Rev, just to be clear, are you saying that the exempted list should be removed? We should not have any exemptions at all in terms of professionals?
Yes, I do, although I understand why. Yeah. But I think it should be done by case by case basis instead of just a blanket profession. Because I think all doctors are exempt, all lawyers are exempt, counselors are exempt.
And there are reasons they say.
So, yeah, man. But remember, the jury system is built on a justice system that assures that I will be judged by a jury of my peers.
Yeah.
Then if you exempt our pastors,
yes.
What peer do we use?
Point taken. Gentlemen, sorry, we have to leave it there. I was hoping to hear what time is against us. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Interesting stuff.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, great.
Thanks for having us.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information, we'll get copies of this program. Call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This, of course, has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Yashika Nevers, and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint, returning you to Love in the Morning.